Bring up my slides. Let's see. Share screen. Okay, well, welcome everybody to the August 15th NCCC meeting. And we usually start the meetings in person by passing around the microphone and everyone saying his name and or her name and call sign. But since we can't do that on Zoom, we've gotten into the habit of just kind of shouting out our calls with no acknowledgement. And I've tried different ways of breaking the pile up into pieces. So this, just for variety, this time I'm going to do it by the last letter of your call sign. So anybody with the last letter A to D, please check in.
K9YC.
Kind of hard to figure out what the last letter of your call sign is. All right, anybody E to H?
November 6
Kilo
Delta
Echo.
Echo.
Kilo Echo 8 Fox Tango.
Okay, I to L.
N6XI.
W6TJK.
Okay, how about M to P?
Whiskey 9 Kilo Norway.
W6 Mike Yankee.
That was a double.
Whiskey Uniform 6 Papa.
Kilo 6 Mike.
Okay, Q to U.
Bingo.
Kilo,
Kilo 8 Mike Radio.
Kilo Echo 8 Fox Tango. Sorry for the mixed up before.
W1RH.
N6RO.
W D6T.
K3EST.
V to Z. Or anything that hasn't been called yet.
6 Yankee, AE6Y.
Whiskey Echo 6 Zulu.
W6DMW.
Kilo 6 Smoky Tahoe.
How is it there? Smoky?
Smoky.
10K6W.
Okay, well, we may have to go back to nursery school and review our alphabets, but anyone else who hasn't managed to check in? Okay, so moving right along here. So here's what we have for today. So I'm going to talk a little bit, then turn it over to Andy. And then Bob Cox is going to do his monthly contest of the month short featured section. And then we get into our main presentation. We have a guest, Jim, K8MR, a very familiar call, one that reminds you to not use your pre-fill because you never know if he's going to be in Florida or Ohio. And then we have Dean, who's going to talk about the big changes to CQP this year and other things about CQP. First of all, okay, so with my business, I want to talk about the September picnics. And no, that's not a typo. I'm sorry to say that after much thought and discussion due to the uncertainty over COVID and the surge and also the wildfire smoke, we're canceling the picnic. We may think about doing it in the spring. Maybe that's a better time to do it, given the way the last couple of years have gone with the smoke. And we are still planning to do the auction, but it'll be online. So please contact Gary. Whoops, I spelled his call wrong. Sorry. NA60 if you have something to donate. And we'll make a catalog, and not sure exactly when we're going to do the auction, but it's going to be soon. So think about your stuff. It's going to be tax deductible, and it'll help the club. So again, sorry about the picnic. It was super fun last time we did it, and I look forward to being able to do it again, but not this year. So instead, in September, we're going to have the meeting that we tried to have in July, but we had a power failure in Ontario. So Cesar is going to give his presentation on IOTA. We had a discussion on IOTA in July, but couldn't have Cesar's presentation, which is reported to be quite interesting and definitely worth a second meeting. So please tune in on the 19th. Okay, other news from my standing desk. Oops, I already said that. Contact NA60 if you have something to donate. Okay, I just want to call out, we had great participation in the NAQPCW with 9 teams. Skip said that's on the high side for us, so let's keep that trend going. And the next one is going to be the phone contest coming soon. And also the NS ladder begins this week. So be sure to get onto that. And then I also wanted to mention WW Digi, which is a relatively new contest. I think this will be the 3rd year, and especially good for small stations. It's the last weekend of August. It's got a novel grid-based approach to scoring, a distance approach. And it's like I said, it's good for small stations, but you really have to spread out because if you just stick to the usual FT8 subbands, you're going to get clobbered by a lot of other stations because they'll be much more congested than usual. And we did win the club competition 2 years ago, but not last year. So check it out. It can be a fun contest and might be an interesting one to try. Okay, one last thing, and then I'll turn it over to Andy. You've heard of these publications, the Washington Post, Le Monde, etc. Well, this is one that you really should check out. It's our newsletter. It's 100 proof contesting goodness, and it contains previews of articles by famous authors that will later be published or have later been published in NCJ, QST, and CQ. Has a point generator profile each month where you meet a member. There's the Tube of the Month Club, etc. It's free for downloading, and we have the impression that not enough people are taking advantage of it. So we were wondering if maybe some people wanted to receive it by mail. Now it's obviously more work and costs more, so there would have to be some cost associated with it. But if you're interested in that, if that would make the difference between reading it and not reading it, please contact either me or N6ZFO. And that's it for me. I'm going to now bring up Andy's slides. Just one second. Okay, turn it over to Andy.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. By the way, the Wall Street Journal about a month ago had a front page article about Bouvet.
Right.
Yeah, which is, in the sort of section on the bottom of the front page where they have their sort of oddball articles, kind of semi-humorous, and that was the content of it. But it was about ham radio, and Bouvet. It was interesting. Okay, what I wanted to do today is get a discussion going about focus contests, because everybody talks about focus contests and people ask us what our focus contests are. And recently at the board of directors, we had a discussion about this, and first we're trying to define what we actually meant by a focus contest, and it was interesting. So what we're going to talk about today is some characterization that I've done of different kinds of contests, and then some suggestions. In terms of what our quote unquote traditional focus contests have been, there's been, to my knowledge, at least when I've been in the club, there's been some change from year to year. I note that that actually the Nugget, the MLDXCC newsletter, has a little thing about focus contests, and it says that the NCCC ones were decided in August 2018, and they are basically the WPX contests and the RIDI Roundup. And I think that's correct. That decision goes back quite a ways. Go to the next slide. So the question is, what is a focus contest? And because there are a lot of contests that we enter, and they're contests that we enter as a club, in a sense, like NAQP. As you mentioned, we had 9 teams, and they did quite well. In CW Sprint, the most recent one, we won that contest, our team number one. But it's not an all-out club effort. It's an effort of a group of people, as many as possible, who do it. But it's not one of the contests where you mobilize the whole club. And I think that focus contests really should be these all-out club efforts where we're trying to maximize participation. The second part of the slide has some comments from Rich, N6KT, and he may want to speak up later himself. And he was talking about a focus contest. In this, his comments apply particularly, I think, to really serious entrants, and particularly to people who may be going overseas and operating from the Caribbean or some other place to try to put maximum points, for example, into WPX. And I note that when we have won WPX, we have often had extensive contributions from overseas operators, from the Caribbean, from the Galapagos, et cetera, because in the nature of WPX, those stations can make 10, 20, 30 million points in a contest. And I think Rich's key points, though, is that we really should decide them ahead of time so people can do their appropriate planning. So, next slide. So in looking through the list of contests, I was, if you go to WA7BNM's list, there's at least 100 contests a month, typically. There's over 1,000 contests, I would say, that are listed officially. And I've divided them into 5 different types. And of course, for our KB award, we have 29 contests for our participation internal KB award. And the first category is serious DX contests. Second category is competitive team focus contests. Third, I sort of made up these categories: training contests, specialized contests. And then the 5th category is really the one that's the all-out club effort one, where the aggregate total participation and activity is what counts. Next. So serious DX contests, here's the list: ARLDX, et cetera. The last category has a great many contests. There are lots of relatively regional DX contests, most of which I think are European based and probably of very little interest to people here. Of these contests, CQWPX has traditionally been a focus contest because participation does really matter. A lot of fun doing it and get a reasonable score from the West Coast, which is very difficult in CQ worldwide. Go to the next slide. So if we were to focus on one of these contests other than WPX, I don't think it's very practical in the age of COVID, because we're not going to be able to do the kind of traveling that you really need. And the one exception to that is interesting, and that is the possibility in ARLDX, where the results are listed in the magazine by divisions, ARL divisions. And this is interesting. If you look at the list here, in the Pacific division last year, we did really well. We won a whole bunch of categories. And one of the things that could be fun, I think we should consider and talk about a little later, is saying for ARLDX next year, phone or CW, or maybe both, let's win all the categories on the West Coast or in the Pacific division. And that would be a kind of fun thing to do. It requires some planning and some thinking about who's in what category. But I was quite struck by how many division winners we did get. Next, please. Okay, the next category of contests is competitive team focus contests. I think NAQP and sprints are a perfect example. And as I say there, I think these are really good activities to encourage club members to do. And Skip, K6DGW, did a great job on NAQP CW. And he's going to be flogging NAQP SSB, which is next weekend, by the way, which is also fun. The NAQPs, I think, are wonderful contests, and you don't have to be an expert. It's a little harder to enjoy sprint unless you know what you're doing. But so these are great club activities, I think, but they're probably not suitable for all-out major contests for club participation. Next. Then there are a whole lot of training contests. And again, that's my term, and I don't mean to be derogatory. As you CW operators know, the CWTs occur 3 times each week on Wednesdays. They're hour-long contests that are kind of blitzkriegs of contests. And they're a lot of fun, and you can try out different things. You're probably not going to win them because the 2B SIQ guys have really got these under control, AA3B, K3WW, and N5ZO. But you can try things. You can try high power versus low power. You can try just one band. You can try only S&P versus running or vice versa, et cetera. The weekly NCCC sprints, of course, also are an internal ladder and be a lot of fun. The CW Open is coming up. That's a series of 3 4-hour contests that, again, is a lot of fun and is not a huge commitment, and you can really sharpen up your skills. And then Field Day, I'm not sure I have anything to say about that. It's actually a lot of fun, and from a club level, for many local clubs, it is fun, but I don't think it would be a contest that we want to call a club contest, if it is a contest. Next, okay, specialized contests. So these contests appeal to people who really are interested in one mode or band. WW Digi that Dave mentioned, VHF contest, Stu Perry, that's a 160 meter contest. WIECW we talked about, we were just chatting about earlier, and that's not a one band contest, but it's a contest that really appeals to kind of relatively high speed CW operators and can be a lot of fun to try out. And of course, there's the state QSO party, CQP, which we can't enter as a club. And 7QP, which doesn't appear to have a club category. We probably could enter as a club, although some of our club members are in the 7th call area in Nevada. And that's a great contest. And I think Jim is going to talk to us about some other state QSO parties, but I don't see any of the state QSO parties as being really suitable for us as on a courses. Next. So that leaves these, what I've called club aggregate activity contests, where there really is a focus on trying to have a maximum participation. WPX classically we have been doing. The NAQP challenge, I know that's sort of an inter-club challenge thing. And I have not personally been into that very much, but it's interesting, and it does require participation by club members. I don't think we've been doing very well on it lately, actually, because we just haven't been getting the participation, but it is in the proper category. Asia Pacific Challenge, Bob Cox, K3EST can talk about a bit. My take on that is it's not ready for us to do an all-out participation, although we are certainly encouraging people to try it this year. And I think probably based on this year's efforts, we ought to talk about whether that could be a club activity. RIDI Roundup, we've done very well, and we have specialized in that, and we've won it. ARRL 10, interestingly, I had no clue that we had done it, but we won it last year. And that comes up in December, and we actually had a lot of club participation, and we won the club category by about 50%. I was stunned when I saw the results. I actually had no idea. Then there's sweepstakes. Let's go to the next slide. So all of the contests I mentioned in the previous slide, I think, are potentially suitable. So in terms of what our focus contests are or should be for the next year or two, I think we should keep the existing list, WPX, and the 3 modes, the 3 separate contests, the NAQP Challenge, and the RIDI Roundup, which will occur next year. Potentially, the Asia Pacific Challenge, I think, is probably, as I said, not quite ready for us now. ARRL 10 meter, we ought to talk about whether we want to do that, because that would be fun. As I said, we did surprisingly win it last year, and 10 meter propagation probably will be better this year than last year, so it could be a lot of fun. And I think the ARRL DX Pacific Division sweep, particularly if club members who normally travel are doing less traveling, is another one that we could consider for 2022. It doesn't really require vast participation, but it does require at least selected participation by people willing to do different bands and modes. And then sweepstakes is kind of the big gorilla in this affair. For the last few years, MLDXCC and PL259 have been doing very well, winning their categories. I know I've been giving my score to PL259 for a couple of years, for example. We've talked about this, and I know Bob W1RH is in the meeting here, was listed. I saw you participating. So the concept we'd have to talk about, we should do it offline, probably not here, is whether for, say, 1 year, like next year, PL259 and MLDXCC would be willing to aggregate with NCCC so that we get all those scores back in this club just for 1 year to make a maximum effort and see how well we can do. I'm not sure we could beat PVRC or SMC, but we might be able to. And it would take a lot of club work And it would take a lot of cooperation. It's exactly the kind of thing that we need to do. So that we would need to do in order. So in any event, I guess what I think is we keep our existing list, WPX and AQP Challenge, the Rudy Roundup. I think going for the 10 meter and the ARLDX Pacific Division contest would be fun, and I'm suggesting we do that. And then I think we should talk about whether sweepstakes is doable for 1 year. And then after that year, PL 259 and MLDXCC can go back to doing their club efforts. So anyway, that's the conclusion of my presentation on focus contests. And I'd like to open it for discussion. Before we do that, here's a list of what's coming up. And the NAQP SSB, as I said, next weekend. So I hope we can get some good teams going in that as well. Whenever I look at these results of the team competitions, I always look at the results for local groups, and I compare us to other localities. This year, for example, Tennessee Contest Group, which I guess qualifies as relatively local, did really well and beat us by quite a bit. On the other hand, we beat almost all other teams, and of teams that come in ahead of us, often they have people from around the country on their team. And I don't consider that kind of in the same category. I mean, legally, so to speak, it is in club results, but I don't consider it the same. I always compare our results to other clubs like us. So other contests coming up, Sprint CW, I'm sure W6RGG will be flogging that as usual. And then, of course, in a few weeks, in the beginning of October, is CQP, which Dean and Jim are going to talk about. So that concludes my formal presentation here. I would like to see if anyone has any discussions about the focus contest. And if we go back to that slide, Jim or Dave, does anybody have any discussion about the existing list first? WPX, NAQP Challenge, AR already Roundup. I think that's pretty reasonable to do, but if anyone wants to add to this or dissent or make a different suggestion, I'd certainly appreciate it.
I just wanted to throw out a couple of comments. So one is that just to remind people that NCCC, starting this year, sponsored a two plaques for WPX, one for all 3 modes and one for 2 modes. And the winners have not been announced yet. Sorry, I didn't say 2 plaques for California WPX. So the winners have not been announced yet, but I just wanted to say that that's one thing we're doing to try to support WPX. NAQP Challenge is a hard nut for population and such. And it begins with the January contest. So we're basically at the end of it for this year.
Right.
So that's all.
Yeah, well, there's really no, other than the upcoming contest, I think there's really nothing for us to do for that anymore. It's really more a question of doing it next year. And I think it's something that, whether we focus on it or not, we are making efforts to get people out in NAQP. And so it will sort of happen automatically. What about the ARL 10 meter and the ARL DX going for Pacific Division wins? Anybody have a thought about that?
I think 10 meters is a bad idea at this stage of propagation.
You know, Jim, I thought so too. And then last year, somehow we did very well. And as I said, we won it as a club activity. Amazingly.
Last year we had kind of a freak propagation event, which was really cool, by the way. I mean, there was like spotlight from here to the, East Coast. It was a straight line and it was skipping over the country. It was, I don't know if we'll have that same exact fortune, but I had a lot of fun in that contest.
Bill, that happened last week in NAQP, CW.
Did it?
Same thing happened. I got on 10 at the start of the contest. I was working everybody in Maryland and Virginia and nowhere else. And Florida. Yeah. Maryland, Virginia, and Florida. And that was it. I couldn't work Ohio, for example.
The other thing about 10 meters was that it was a KB contest. So those who are going for our KB award, are trying to do as many of these as they can, even if conditions are tough. So that might have helped our participation.
Yeah. Well, and it was a huge multiplier of them too.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And
So
the Pacific Division sweep concept for the ARRL-DX is intriguing. It's enabled by the fact that we have a division structure and ARRL reports leaders in that structure. I wonder if there would be any way to subdivide competition in CQ worldwide to recognize West Coast winners, W6, W7, since it's a far more interesting contest than ARRLDX.
Well, they tend to, but they do it within zone, right? So it's going to be all zone 3. I mean, maybe they can go a little smaller than that, but I don't know how much smaller.
How about zone 3?
Zone 3 is pretty crowded, guys.
It extends way out. We went through this when we decided on the WPX, the new WPX plaques, and we decided California was a better choice. I mean, that we could do that same approach for WW, but the thing is, we can't sponsor 8 categories of plaques. So
Yeah.
Now, what I like about the ARRL is that they do list it. They do the awards. They list it in the magazine. If we do
Yep.
zone 3, we get VE7 in it, I think, among other things. So I don't see.
Yeah, you're going to have some stations in Southern California, Arizona, Nevada ruin it for you.
Yeah.
oh wait, Southern California, they're not Pacific Division.
Well, no, they're not, but they are zone 3.
Oh yeah, zone 3. You're talking about zone 3, right?
Yeah, it would certainly be harder for us to win zone 3 than to win Pacific Division.
Well,
Yeah,
Southern
Pacific
California
Division's not
must
so
be-
bad.
Southern California is Pacific Division. isn't
It is included. No, it's not.
Oh.
It's Southwest Division.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
Hawaii is Pacific Division, but in ARLDX, it's broken out as DX.
That's right. So this is certainly very winnable. I guess what you're saying is it may be, not a shallow victory in a sense.
It's not a shallow victory, Andy. It's a real victory. It's just the ARRLDX is boring from inside the US.
Right. Okay. Well, I fundamentally agree with you, but I guess that would be the question, whether we want to get people motivated for this or not. On the other hand, getting people motivated doesn't mean getting everyone motivated, since we only need a certain number of
Right.
stations.
You just have to figure out who those winners are going to be. And that's actually not all that hard.
Well, maybe we should try it that way then. And then I still like the idea of saying, let's try ARRL 10 meters and see if we can get people. As I said, I was stunned by how well we did last year, freak propagation or not.
Well, my problem with making 10 meters a focus contest now with lousy propagation is likely to have a lot of people bored all weekend. I mean, I work 10-meter contest every year, and I take it seriously, but it's easy to be bored when there's no prop.
Well, that's right. And it may be that, it's a few hours in the weekend. Well, what do people think in terms of any other thoughts?
The good. Well, I would say even the good thing about ARRL 10 is that you don't have to spend all weekend on it.
Yeah.
It is a 48. It's a full board contest, but it's really like 25 hours, even on the DX side, honestly.
30 hours.
30 hours,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, but part of that is sporadic E.
Yep.
And so you can pick the wrong hours.
It's true, you can.
So I mean, to make it in that contest, you have to be really, really persistent.
But is that what
Basic
happened
that's-
last year? As I said, we won the club championship easily.
Well,
Yeah,
But-
no, I think what happened is you had a lot of guys just sort of dipping their toes in over the weekend, and then they happen to get lucky.
Yeah, that's really the difference last year.
Yeah,
A6S2, the comment.
go for it.
Yeah, one thing just to consider for whatever it's worth besides propagation is people that are not generals yet, that maybe we want to get into the door through, 10 meters is a possibility. It's going to be some work to get them in there, but that brings in the techs if we want them to come into the door through contest.
I don't know our club statistics or whether or not we have that many, but
We probably don't.
yeah.
And would that help if we put some effort in to get some people from other clubs? I don't know. It's just a comment.
Yeah, it's an idea.
I think we need to move along a little bit here.
Okay.
So I'll just say that if you have any more comments, this is a great discussion. We can do it later after the main presentation. Now, Bob K3EST has a short presentation on the upcoming All Asia. So take it, Bob.
Thanks, David. This is another one of the presentations concerned with the Asia Oceania Challenge. And that challenge is such that dictates contests which we actually can win with hands down, so to speak. If anybody's east of us, we can beat them. So bottom line is get in this contest and have some fun. So this is the next one I want to talk about is the All Asian Sideband Contest, which takes place September 4th and 5th. And it's one of the 6 associated with the Asia Oceania Challenge. If you go to the next slide, it just shows you the parameters associated with the Asian contest, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Essentially, it's 48 hours long. You can work only Asian stations. Exchange is your signal report plus your age. And multipliers are Asian prefixes. You shouldn't be concerned about the age part of it. I just send any age that's convenient to send on CW or phone, whatever's better. It makes you look younger if you constantly send like 65 or something. So anyway, the bottom line is it's a lot of fun. And if you go to the next slide, is that which you have there now, is the All Asian Contest. The majority of the contacts are in Japan, like you suspect. So that's where you want to concentrate your effort to try to work as many of the Japanese as you can. But there are other areas which are interesting too. The secondary place is obviously China and Asiatic Russia. And the band which will produce the most cues is usually 40 meters. So if you want to think about having fun, go to 40 meters. The next slide will show you after this one, we'll show you a summary of when to get on and have the most fun. I took a contest from 2016 where conditions were okay. And last year, 2020, where conditions were beyond terrible. So those two things are combined together to give the table, which we'll see in a few seconds. The 15 is not open. 40 meters will definitely be the band where you have the most fun, followed by 20. You might notice that on the next slide, you might notice that when we talked about the CW All Asian Contest, the JAs were really, really heavy duty between like 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock local time and 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, our time. And now it's been shifted to further towards daylight. So they'll be on a little earlier. Okay, the next slide shows you next slide, David, shows you the actual table when you might get on to have the most fun. And in red, it shows you the high hours. Remember these numbers are combined for essentially 4 days over 2 years combined together to give you these numbers to give you the idea when to get on. And you can see 40, and you could actually get on 20 and 40 and have a good time and make quite a few contacts. If you get on in the evening on 20, that's when you're going to work as most JAs, and also they have a good shot at Asiatic Russians, which are AR in that little graph there, little table. And if you're trying to work some exotic stuff in the Middle East, 20 meters in the morning is your best chance at those hours, ME standing for Middle East. So that gives you a graph, a table which shows you when to get on and have the most fun. And not everybody is convinced to get on all the time, of course, but this is a 48-hour contest, but you can get on and choose those times and get on and help yourself and help out the Asians who give us lots of contacts and contests, basically. So next slide. If you want to have the most fun, those are the hours to do it. There's little data from 15 meters because 15 wasn't open in any of those years, basically, to any amount. And there was almost none for 10 meters. So I didn't put any data there for that, except for a little bit on 15. And you notice that the chances are 15 is open, and you know as well as I do that if 15 is open, that's the band to be on because that's where you have the most fun. But it's usually marginal, or it could be, but you never know. You have to sort of check it. Asiatic Russia is best at those times. The Middle East is best at those times. You can see them there. So if you go to the next slide, it's just the final slide, which shows this is one of the 6 Asia Oceania Challenge contests associated with the challenge. And you can get on and they get on our contest. You can sure have fun and get on and give some fun to them too. And it's a lot of fun contest. It's last year, I think we worked 800 or so from multi. And usually when that was bad conditions, usually under good conditions, you could work over 1,000 if you really try. So anyway, that's my little talk on that. Have fun, get on, have a good time. Thanks.
Thanks, Bob. That's great. And I'm going to just move right along here and turn it over to Dean, N6TE.
Hey, Dave, I have a quick question. Were the times that Robert showed, were those local times or GMT times?
Those are GMT times.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, then in that case, turn it over to Dean
David, let me share my screen. David, are you seeing that?
Good here.
Great.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
great. All right, thanks. I'm Dean, N6DE, CQP Chairman this year. Thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to talk a little bit about it in today's NCCC meeting. Agenda today is going to be, we're going to discuss two main things. One is some updates and some news that I'm going to do live on the webpage. But our main presentation today is going to be about mobile. Now, getting out of the house. We have all been in the house probably quite a bit more than we have wanted to the last nearly the last 2 years. And the ways that we've done this in getting out of the house in the California QSO party have been expeditions, mobiles, or going to another station, namely fixed station. So from the expedition standpoint, last year, we had 30 different expeditions, which was remarkable. With the challenges that we faced last year, expeditions have been a real staple in the California QSO party to activating rare counties, and that still held true last year. Mobile typically has not been one in CQP that we have explored as other QSO parties do. We had 3 last year, and then we have a number of folks who go to fixed stations. Now, let me go to the next slide and mention that usually this meeting every year, we take the opportunity to talk about all the expeditions that happened the prior year. Tell some stories, show some pictures, show folks what everyone did out in the field. And we're going to do something a little differently this year. Instead of doing that, what I'd like us to explore is what are other ways, other than expeditions, that we could also get out of the house. And expeditions, I would say, have become more challenging than they have in the past. I know I've been on CQP expeditions since 1998. Off and on. And I never thought once really about wildfires or access or smoke or, setting up and tearing down in 90-degree weather. And yet that's become our reality. It was last year and it has been for the last few years. We're still going to encourage expeditions. I'm even going on an expedition this year for sure. And I know a lot of you, perhaps on the call, are also going on an expedition, but they've become more logistically challenging as we navigate the wildfires, the access, the permission to camp at a site, and the smoke and ash concerns as well. So that leads us to talking a little bit about mobile. What can we talk about mobile today? Well, K6AQL has been mobile in CQP for the last 21 years in a row. 19 of those years, he's made over 1,000 queues. Mobile is usually an area in California where we say, mobile is just really hard in California. Our counties are too big. We have too many mountains. We have too much terrain to navigate, and it's just really hard to make any traction mobile. So either stay at home or go on an expedition. And yet, K6AQL has been proving this wrong for the last 21 years in a row. Last year, he made 1,425 QSOs mobile. So there's something there. I think that it might be worth pursuing a little bit more and thinking a little bit more about the mobile perspective in CQP as an alternative to going on an expedition. And I was thinking, who in the contest community really knows their stuff about going on mobiles in QSO parties. And certainly Jim K8MR was at the top of that list. I almost feel like Jim is an honorary NCCC member. He's in all those contests that we're in, WPX, NAQP, NCCC Sprint, you name it. And he's been in CQP since 2005, every year. I looked back in the results. I wonder if everyone on the call has been in CQP since 2005. Jim, I was thrilled when Jim accepted my invitation to speak to us today to talk about his vast experience in QSO parties from other states and maybe what we can learn about the mobile perspective and apply here to CQP coming up the first weekend in October. With that, I'd like to introduce Jim K8MR. Jim, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to you to share your screen.
Okay. Let's see here. Screen share. Okay. Let's get a slideshow going here. Start from first slide. Okay. Do you see me now?
Not yet. You need to share your screen.
Okay. Let's see. Oh crap! How do I get this? We did this once, and let's see here. Back here.
Yeah, it'll be the green button in the middle of the screen on the bottom of it.
Share screen. Okay, hit that once. Screen. Oh, here we go. Let's try this one. Okay.
Yep.
Do you see me now?
Bingo.
Okay, slideshow from first slides. Okay. Mobile contesting, I enjoy it. Before I want to get going, I just want to share one other thing here. I fear we have a bunch of tech nerds in the bunch. Myself, I'm coming on 50 years since I became an official tech nerd, getting a double E degree from W8EDU, also known as Case Western Reserve University. But it's only recently I realized just how important double E is to the world. Came to my attention when my daughter got me a Beer of the Month Club subscription for Christmas. And along about April, one of the selection shows up here. Now, obviously, entropic theory, that sounds tech nerdy enough. But when we turn the can, we said, okay, there must have been a double E involved in this beer can. So we said, okay, sounds good. So, and more on that, and then turn another 90 degrees and tap in, grow, connect, give a flux. And it's only after this got me thinking just how important double E's are to the world, because you can't have beer without a double E. So anyway, on to mobile contesting. I enjoy beer. I enjoy mobile contesting. Just do not mix the two, please.
Can't have a double E without beer.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, mobile radio has been going on longer than we might have imagined. 102 years ago, came out this article in Wireless Age about just a power supply for a mobile radio of some sort. I don't know what the radio was, but is a power pack designed for military use. Obviously, not the fastest mobile travel in the world. You probably couldn't cover a lot of counties with this, but whatever it was, it must have done something. Actually, another interesting topic, the bigger subheadline here about the new and powerful wireless company also has an interesting ham radio connection. Turns out that the Marconi company in England and General Electric in the United States got together and formed a new company called the Radio Corporation of America, RCA. Anyway, what is mobile contesting? Well, it's my explanation to the people I ran into. It's a ham radio road rally, which I think is pretty apt. But it's basically a station that you can operate while in motion, but you don't have to be moving, just so you could pack up and move if you had to. So portable antennas, movable power supplies, etc. Come on. Primarily state QSO parties. There is a Class C mobile and field day, which is not a big aspect of field day. But you can also operate mobile doing other contests. If you're stuck on a long drive, preferably have someone to drive with you. It can while away the time while you do something more than watch the billboards go by. It is a CW-oriented event. As you expect, mobile signals are not terribly strong, and CW cuts the mustard a lot better when you're not very loud. And it does have skills and equipments that if an emergency came up, if you can quickly deploy and get out there and operate under difficult conditions, that's a useful service from the ham radio community. So why do you do it? Well, it is a good state-centered event, sort of as mentioned earlier, and there's clubs and so on around the state that get together and do something to put Ohio or whatever it is in the focus. California being a big state might not be quite so an issue or a feature, but for what it's worth, I think it's one of the best ways to introduce people to contesting. If you're out of state, it's a low-key contest. I admit the pileups on mobiles can get pretty intense, but it's low-key and people are not going to be intimidated. If you're in the state and suddenly you realize that, hey, I'm in a county that people actually want, I'm a multiplier, it's a interesting new thrill. Can have great rates. In the past Ohio QSO party last August, I had 12 hours. There were only 2 hours under 100 per hour. The last hour, which was the best, was 167 hour, of which most of it was actually on 80 meters CW, some on 40 meters. But it could be a candidate for records of the best, most QSOs per hour per wavelength of antenna. You do get to be a rear multiplier. Getting on, passing out Ohio or California can be pretty boring, but you say, hi, I'm in Shasta County or I'm in Monroe County, Ohio, that you gotta understand that people do appreciate that you're being there. You do make the county hunters happy, and they're very good. They have their mobile reply cards. They'll fill it all out for you, send it to you. And if the SASC, you just sign the name and send it back, and it's very easy QSLing. And once in a while, you get to really escape the noise, to get out away from the grid, away from civilization, park, turn off the car. It can be amazing just how quiet the bands can be. Unfortunately, you'll spend a lot more time listening to just how noisy the power lines of America can be, but hey, that's life. Most of them are one-day events, which I think is for most states is the appropriate number. 2 days, I think many cases stretching it. Again, I understand California is a big state and a different situation. Most of those that are 2-day events at least give you 10 hours or so off between times so you can sleep and be sort of a normal human being in amongst it all. And most delightfully, you actually get out and get to see the sights of America. I got my start in the 2000 Michigan QSO party. In 1999, the Mad River Radio Club resurrected the Michigan QSO party after several years being off the air. Listening around, I sound like these mobile guys were having a lot of fun. So I got hooked up for 2000 with Ron Majewski, W8RU. I drove up to Michigan and drove around in his car, just setting up in the back of his minivan. Went back to work the following week, and my good friend Jim, W8DRZ, says, what did you do last weekend? And I said, oh, I was out driving around Michigan making QSOs. He says, why didn't you invite me? I said, well, first of all, I don't have a mobile station. Secondly, I didn't know you're interested. But in August, coming up here, we have the first Ohio QSO party. And so he said, we're on. So I went to Dayton, bought some mobile antennas and so on. And Jim and I set out for 8 years. We every year did the Michigan party, the Ohio, a number of years did Pennsylvania, 1 year we made it to West Virginia, 1 year we made it to Indiana. This is one of the earlier setups, not the earliest. The very earliest was just ham sticks. By this point, I'd gotten the 3 resonator hustler system in the back. And this is the first setup. Got to build a shelf to put the radio on in between the 2 front seats. Got a piece of plywood to kind of rest between that and the armrest. It doesn't show real well, but just to the right of the computer, I have a little K9LU paddle. It's a little magnetic mount thing. And it worked well. It was quite comfortable and all that. I decided after a few times with this, though, that if there was ever an airbag deployment, my widow would have a hard time explaining why her husband is so stupid. So we relocated to the back seat. And this is where we've been doing it ever since. Basic setup here. This is the center of the station, the shelf with to hold the radio, a couple notches on the side where the straps to hold the radio go through, a couple of little trays there to hold various keys, cell phones, combs, whatever. A cup holder, very important right there. On the right side, I have the arm sticking out, which then uses to support the computer stand, which is sort of a monopod. Again, does not show up real well here, but I have like 4 strips of wood on either side just to keep the computer in place. And that fender washer, which I actually now use a 4x4 box cover. That's what holds the magnet mount down. Install in the car, secure the radio with slings and carabiners and so on. And then I also secure the whole thing to the car itself. So if there's ever a serious collision, whatever, we don't have all those tables full of radios rolling around, cause even more damage. This is the current setup with the current car. It's basically a 4-resonator hustler system in the back for 80 CW, 40, 20, and 15. The ham stick in the front is for 75-meter sideband, which is a very difficult band, but when you're, especially with nearby or in-state multipliers on sideband, it's a necessary thing you kind of put up with and hope you don't have to use too much. The antenna being a heavy, top heavy thing, of course, we have a guide with the ropes going to the front, but we then also have this little PVC pipe structure to give it sideways and stability to the front. So when you're braking, it doesn't go crashing down upon you. The front part is glued into the center PVC attachment. The two to the side are not, just to give you some adjustment flexibility. But then I run a piece of rope up through those two side pieces and tie them on each side. So if it ever came apart, we're not leaving parts dragging along the road and otherwise losing the device to hold the antenna on. K9YC hopefully will approve. I've got a couple of mixed 31 toroids here with wrapped around there. Hopefully it'll keep the RF back from getting into the stuff inside the electronics and keep some of the noise likewise from getting in. The wire coming off to the right is a ground wire, which attaches. I've got attachment, a little hole drilled underneath the back tailgate lift. If you can fit it in, having a ladder is nice in case you ever have to do any adjustments on the roof. A lot easier than trying to climb up to the car. Usually it's a minivan. 1 year, we'll call you later. I was between minivans, so we kind of downsized into a Honda Fit. It was a cozy car. Actually, the biggest problem was that it has no roof rack, so trying to get everything squeezed on there was a challenge, but somehow we made do. Actually, the most interesting problem with the car, it suffered from electric power steering interference. Anytime you touch the steering wheel just slightly, you'd have about 10 seconds of coming through. Tried to talk to the driver and saying, hey, there's a weak one, John. Can you stop steering? But we decided that it was not going to work out very well. So anyway, so I say it was very cozy in the back seat, but we built a little tripod, or not monopod rather, to hold the computer, and built a little angled shelf to hold the radio. Again,
Jim,
with this.
Jim, one comment on the
Yes.
On that 75-meter mag mount.
Yes.
All of our verticals on vehicles use the body of the car as a counterpoise.
Yes.
But for that band, and they in general depend on capacitive coupling on all bands,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Well, on that band, there ain't much capacitance. So doing what you did with the ground wire to tie it to the frame is a very good thing. And the other thing I've run into is finding the chassis on a modern car can be very difficult because of all of the paint.
Yeah, well, like I say, my van's a 2007, so I take liberties with it. I might not do with a new car, but anyway, so I built this little angled shelf up, and again with the straps to hold the radio on. I've got the rope again running through there. In this case, this is a Honda Fit. The other seat folds down, but I've got the rope around that seat again, just in case there's ever an accident, that this whole thing is not flying around, causing more damage than we already had. And this shelf will show up later in another situation, so be more to come. And like I say, then I have a little hook there and the nut on the other side that you don't see to adjust the tightness holding it down. Then this is the shelf for the computer. Basically a monopod on the right side. It's cut to fit the armrest, and the little block there again to fit the armrest, and then with the radio, of course, off the other side. In this particular car, we have a map pocket on the front seat in front of me, so I put a piece of wood in there with an adjustable thing to give it a little front and back stability. And this is the view from the back seat. Actually, one of the very few views of my wife driving for me. She does not like to drive, let alone drive for radio purposes, but we have a daughter who lives in Montclair, New Jersey. So a couple times we decided, it'd be a good weekend to go out there the second weekend of October, which happens to be the Pennsylvania QSO party. So make some contacts while driving across Interstate 80, which can be a pretty boring drive otherwise. One item here, if you don't have anybody sitting in the front seat, do take off the headrest. It makes your view much more pleasant. So where to? Route planning. Well, first you want to try to get to as many counties as you can. Every time you're in a new county, you're a new person, and makes for big pileups and so on. You want to get the rare ones on the air. Not much point in organizing a mobile effort through Santa Clara County, but if you can get to Shasta County and find a place where you can get out from the mountains, it's much more interesting. What I call the fly through versus the zigzag approach. The fly through, you sort of get on a road and drive like crazy in a straight line. The zigzag, you kind of go down, maybe cut a back road, cut across a few miles, get to a different county, go a few miles through there, zig back through another county, and so on and so forth. Like I say, it's geographically dependent. Certain states, I'm sure California is not terribly conducive to zigging and zagging, but places like Ohio, Michigan, it does work out well. You want to coordinate with others, both fixed and mobile, so you do get counties on the air and don't miss something that you could have otherwise had on the air. And generally speaking, trying to do the back roads in the daytime and main highways at the night, just much less chance of getting lost, fewer drunks to be worried about pulling out of the bar along the way, and so on and so forth. And if you're going through a county early in the day, by the end of the day, the propagations has changed. And in effect, for a lot of people, it would be a new station in that county. And certainly you're at least on a different band where you've worked before on the different band, you're still new QSO. For planning, I like the state highway maps. I find them are generally better than the AAA ones in that they tend to mark the county lines a lot better. AAA, not so much. And they also have a nice gradation of acceptable roads. There's obviously the state highways here in the red are going to be good roads. If you get down into the really granular level, there are lots of roads, but generally speaking, my experience, the ones that rate a gray line on a state map are generally pretty reasonable roads to drive on, because you do get the choice. You get good roads and you get not so good roads, and you want to get the former. Another use for maps. I was sitting in the Florida QSO party park one day looking at the sun beating on the K3. I said, I don't know what the over temperature shutoff is in a K3, but I think it would use a little bit of shade. I've yet to find a good cell phone application to shade a radio. The Dolomites Street Atlas is a very convenient thing if you're going to be doing, especially on back roads, because quite often it seems if you're really in the boondocks, that's where your cell phone doesn't have coverage. Unfortunately, I understand these are no longer readily available, so to find one, you really have to go on the eBays or whatever the world to come up with them. A very useful map are the Census Bureau maps. Census.gov has them. They're called the state-based county outline maps. And actually, maybe more useful, perhaps, if you're operating from home, chasing people out of state. It gives you an idea what the counties are, kind of if I've got mobiles in whatever county where he may be going to next, and so on and so forth. Of course, the mapping software is also quite useful, and especially the Street View part. It gives you an idea whether a road is some big, heavily commercial road or out in the middle of nowhere type road. One other interesting thing that was quite useful here, that little green thing sticking up on the right is a county line sign. Now, this is in Florida, where county line QSOs are counted as 2 QSOs. I end up not going to this part of the state, but had I gone there, I would not have stopped here to operate. I figured it'd not be a good thing to be sitting parked alongside the road in a car full of computers and radios across the street from a prison. Anyway, some things to watch for. Construction, obviously, checking ahead on highway departments, things for major construction projects that might get you detoured. Trees, another thing that with a antenna, not terribly strong antenna sticking 13 feet or so above the roadway, it doesn't take much of a tree to cause trouble. My experience here has been that any road that routinely gets semi-truck traffic is going to be okay. If you're on any road that does not, be careful, have your driver be careful to take it slow or avoid those trees over the road. And one other thing, we once upon a time up in Middle Michigan had a non-radio contact with a deer. Saw several of them crossing the road quite a ways ahead. We'd slowed down from 60 down to 40 or so, at which point the last one, the crowd tried to make it across the street and didn't. Fortunately, we were able to it was about 5-6 hours from home back in Cleveland. Fortunately, we were able to make it back home and didn't have to have tow trucks or anything else involved. Another view of the BMB contact. I have the good fortune, what I've so far is what I would call the northern setup, Ohio, Michigan, etc. I have the good fortune of being a Florida snowbird. Excuse me here. Spent in 2015, purchased a condo in Sarasota, and I've been doing, well, actually since 2017, been doing the Florida QSO party. A couple things different here. First of all, a different car. A Prius is not what you usually think of for a mobile vehicle, but it's the car we have in Florida, and we make do. It's not the worst thing in the world. With this, I mean, you're worried about the electronics, noise, and all that. If parked and the car shut off, it's reasonably quiet. If the car is on, but the engine not running, or just the hybrid system going, there are some more birdies and so on. That does work out nice in that the hybrid system will keep the 12-volt system up to a semi-reasonable voltage charge and so on. And then after maybe half an hour or so of parked operating, the engine will actually start up, at which point you have yet another noise level. The one problem I do run into, if you're under heavy acceleration in this car, whether it's going from a stop to 50 miles an hour or trying to maintain 70 miles an hour going up a hill on Interstate 80 in Pennsylvania, the ignition noise is quite serious. But anyway, this shot is the south end of the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. That's across the mouth of Tampa Bay. This location's in Manatee County, which typically is my opening location on the second day of the Florida QSO party. The water there is salt water, which is very nice to have. Any sideband to the mobile is a challenging thing. You're not real loud, but this past year parked in this same spot on 20 meter sideband, pardon me, on 20 in the hour or so, they had like nearly 100 QSOs just on 20 sideband, plus some other bands as well. And then from there, I pack up, drive across, and actually in the Hillsborough County, which the county associate Tampa, runs down the middle of Tampa Bay. The Pinellas County, which is the county with St. Petersburg's at north end. And through this, they have the North Fishing Pier State Park. They claim it's the longest fishing pier in the world. Actually, it was at one point was the road across Tampa Bay. Had a very tragic situation happen there in 1980. A ship got loose, ran into the bridge, and cars and actually a Greyhound bus were driving off the bridge. There were like 30 people killed there in that incident. But anyway, they took the remains, and it's now the state park. So then, like I say, County 2 and County 3 on Sunday are likewise over saltwater, which is very nice. Florida has well, actually, they have a lot of mobile categories. They have single op without driver, single op with a driver, multi-op, multi-transit, whatever, and then phone, CW mixed mode. Out of basic necessity, I do it without a driver, which brings a question. Now, it's doing it. Now, it's keeping in mind safety first. Now, you're driving around. Don't do crazy things. The name of radio contest. Keep safe. I operate well parked as much as possible, and especially when during a new county noise where you got the intense pile up, you want to concentrate. Be able to just concentrate on the radio, not on trying to drive. The one absolute law: absolutely do not attempt to keep a log while driving. Just record the audio and transcribe the log later. You have quite enough distraction as is. Well, it's not, in most cases, it's not too bad. Just pushing a button and listening. I sort of look at it as I'm keeping my visual stream focused on the highway, keeping my audio stream focused on the radio. But in any reason necessary, just pause for the least reason. There's a semi truck coming past you or whatever. You see a intersection up ahead, you're going through a town. Just stop operating. Probably most of these when I'm driving, I get several times where I say I've called CQ. Somebody with a perfectly fine signal calls me, but then something comes up and I do not come back to them. It's not because I'm ignoring you, it's because I have more important things to do. Again, considering stopping shortly before you leave a county, especially if you're not operating while driving, because then you've got a half hour where people have filtered in, filtered out, and a new crowd to operate with. Anymore, I do not do any search and pounce while I'm driving. It's just, again, too distracting, tuning and so on. I just kind of keep the eyes focused and just kind of push buttons. And if someone calls me, I work them. Likewise, I am no longer don't do sideband operating while driving, just the switch back and forth between CW and phone, and then also dealing with a foot switch on the floor. It's too much distracting to do safely. And obviously you don't try operating when things get crowded or terribly crooked. I would contend that one can probably safely operate on this road and probably even chew gum at the same time. This is down in Glades or Highland County, South Central Florida. And this is actually a 4-lane road. The oncoming traffic is the opposite side of that grassy median strip. On the other hand, I think it doesn't take much imagination to figure you do not want to be operating on a road like this one. This is the mobile setup. Basically, when I stop, I put out a little piece of plywood that I put across the center console to the armrest, put the computer up there and go operate. Sitting beside me now, here's that same shelf for the radio that I had showed you earlier. I've got the WinKey USB, so I've got 4 memory buttons on top of that. I can just reach down and push that. When I'm driving, I just take the wooden piece off, set the computer aside, and I just have a electrical box cover taped to the top of the console. The audio recorder with which I record the contest while I'm driving, and then the switch between 40 meters and 15 meters. I keep a full-time 20 meter antenna on the other input. Here's a breakdown of what I do while parked versus what I do with the driving part mixed in from the 19 Florida QSO party. So I did about 11 hours while parked, another 6-7 hours while driving. 1 hour plus when I'm driving through St. Petersburg and Tampa. I don't even think about trying to operate. I just turn the radio off and drive. And the other times are just shorter times when I'm passing through smaller towns or stopping for gas. Occasionally running into a very bad stretch of power line noise where for 5 minutes you can't hear anybody, etc. A lot of contests, including Ohio and Pennsylvania, we have what's called the rover category, where basically you use temporary antennas, but they won't be ones that are not motion capable. So some may allow you to operate also while you're moving. Ohio does, Pennsylvania does not. You'll typically do fewer counties, but spend more time in each county, and you get much louder. Between the 40 meter ham stick and my 40 meter rover antenna, which I'll show you in a moment, the rover antenna is generally about 2 to 3 S units better, which makes a heck of a difference on sideband. And the rover category is a great option for someone who's going out solo without a driver, because you're going to stop and do a lot of your operating while stopped. A couple of rovers here. In the background is Ralph K at RYU, who's a very active rover in the Ohio and Pennsylvania QSO parties. The rover in the foreground is just a curious local who stopped by to see what was going on, but he quickly got into the spirit of things and kind of understood what was going on, because he even helped out by improving ground conductivity. This is an early rover setup of mine. It's a DK9SQ fiberglass mast with a 40-20 dipole on a common feed line. It worked. It was not great. It took a while to set up. It would probably not do very well in a windstorm. But the more recent effort is what I call the 33-foot hamstick, basically a 33-foot wire being fed just like I'd feed any other mobile antenna off the car. The mouse is held up with a tripod. These are, each leg are a pair of the 4-foot aluminum military mast sections. The center casting is available from a place called Go Vertical USA, and the mast goes up there. Being quite thin, you need to wrap the wire around the mast a few times so then it comes off a lower point where the mast is going to be stronger. And you can feed it directly from the car like this. Now, as I say, having an older car, I don't feel bad about drilling holes in the lip there. The wire going off to the left there, that's a ground wire that goes up to the mag mount. If you wish, you can add a loading coil for 80 meters or whatever. You could probably try going to a 43-foot version, which might load better. But the whole thing, it's a very nice, simple antenna. By myself, with no help, I can have the thing set up in under 10 minutes. Tear down time is about 5 minutes. So it doesn't take a whole lot of time, and you can quickly make up by having a strong signal what you might have lost by the time spent setting up and tearing down. 2 mobile contesting seasons, the fall, which in my mind starts in a couple of weeks with Ohio and obviously these states, including California. Spring starts with Minnesota and kind of goes up through the 7QP and all those others the last weekend of, or toward the end of May. Minnesota kind of puzzles me why they do a contest in Minnesota in February, but I think maybe they just say, hey, Sven, we can get the other county, just drive across the frozen lake here and get to the other side. So how to win? Well, of course, the first thing, it's good contest operating skills, the main thing, but it gives you a good chance to play with it. To read the rules, that there are multipliers. Some have multipliers by mode. A couple have multipliers by bands. There are bonus points for activating counties or working bonus stations. Typically, these are not a big issue, but if you want to pay attention, pay attention. Do move guys for new multipliers or just QSOs. Quite a few of my phone multipliers are when I work somebody on CW and say, hey, can we go to sideband? K through LR graciously allows me to use 114, 151 during the QSO party. So that's my usual 20 meter sideband frequency. I think OM2VL, who's a very serious participant in these from overseas, I believe must have his memory keyer programmed 5NNDXSSB ? And if I'm not driving, I generally can avail to work him and others. Efficient use of counties. If you have a real long county that you're going to be in for a long time, don't stop there to have lunch, but try to find a smaller county where you might have some time where extra time becomes useful. County line operation. Some parties allowed operating county lines where you get the 2 QSOs for each person you work while on the county line, and conversely, the other person gets county line credit for 2 QSOs. Florida does allow these. We don't have them in Ohio, partly in my mind because most county lines are either down the middle of a road, or if they go across the road, typically it's about a 3-foot wide berm and drainage ditch right beside it, which does not make for suitable parking. Post your plans, the county hunter group. Lots of people are looking for counties. I suspect maybe by now California's worked out, but some of the other states with more rare counties, it's a good thing. And again, the county hunters are very good. They send their mobile reply cards where you just kind of sign them, fill them out, and sign them and send them back. It's really all you have to do. Some station considerations: operator comfort and safety. Like I say, from the safety point of view, it's largely just avoid extra flying objects. You don't want everything bouncing. You don't want to get by a bench or paddle flying through the air. Comfort kind of follows by itself. That I find the back of the minivan is actually quite a comfortable situation. The only issue that sometimes being in that position for a long time, you need to kind of try to move your legs once in a while. I occasionally see pictures of somebody who just like has a little laptop tray sitting on their lap with the laptop, which it's not the best, but yeah, like I say, you gotta do what you gotta do. 12-volt radio power. Ideally, you come off the car battery with a good fusing it very close to the battery. If you're going to have a permanent installation, feeding it through the firewall into the main compartment's the way to go. It's a delicate operation. I've done it. It's not for the faint of heart. If you are going to try it, do disconnect the battery before you do it, just to minimize any possible damage if something did go wrong. Speaking of radio power, one other thing I typically do, I have along like an extra 26 amp hour sealed lead acid battery, which I have somewhat close to radio, and just through a power pole splitter, parallel that as another power source, just to kind of add to the battery capacity and give an alternate source without the IR drop in the power cable. Computer power needs to be considered. That is more of an issue back in the days with computers that took more power. My current one actually run probably 6 or 7 hours on a full charge. And all I do now is just have a good quality, a pure sine wave inverter, and use the regular computer power supply to charge that up, which again does not have to run full time, but compared to the other noise coming from the car, it's negligible. Computer visibility, sunlight shining in the windows in the daytime can make it hard to see the computer, so figure out what you might need to do to deal with that. Likewise, at night, you'll need some light. I start with a little gooseneck USB LED, which kind of lights the keyboard, but if you ever have to punch buttons on the radio, you need more light than that. So generally, I just use the reading lamp in the back, which has been sufficient, but keep in mind in case that doesn't work out in your situation. Noise canceling headphones are a very useful thing to have. You do get a lot of noise, especially the low frequency tire noise and so on. One interesting story I ran into here a while back was we'd stop someplace and whatever, and the driver gets out, closes the door, slams the door, front door, and see getting out, and I say, "Oh crap, I have a loose connection here. What's going on?" He wiggle wires and whatever, and okay, nothing wiggled. And he gets back in, slams the door. Oh damn, another loose wire. And about the third time, he realized, oh wait, it's just the noise canceling headphones canceling the noise of the slamming door. Nothing's wrong. Antennas, ham sticks versus screwdriver. It's really, in my mind, not a hard choice, especially starting out the screwdriver. That's really a big, expensive antenna, which really requires a permanent installation. But I like the ham sticks in that it's very quick to QSY. You don't have to sit there and wait for something to go cranking around to get your SWR down. And most modern radios will handle enough of a mismatch to get power into your antenna, even if the SWR is somewhat on the high side. With a collection of ham sticks, I get a piece of 1.5 inch PVC, which nicely fits them all in. I do carry a small screwdriver around just to have it handy to tighten the things down when I set it up. With the ham sticks, sometimes you'll need to add some loading. For instance, the 80-meter ham stick is not really an 80 meter, it's a 75-meter version. So you need to add some top loading. What I do, I just get a piece of stiff wire, replace one of the set screws with a regular machine screw and a wing nut to tighten down the loading. You'll want to get a carrying case to carry all these various mobile supplies, just to have them with you and so on. And again, by keeping them ready, if you came in an emergency situation where you had to pack up and move quickly, there you're all set. Join the party from home. If it wasn't for your folks at home, there wouldn't be many people for us mobiles to talk to. So we do appreciate you getting on. Even if it's just maybe an hour or so, and you might be working mostly just the serious fix stations, but having somebody to talk to makes an event a lot nicer, which I'm sure you people from California can attest to as well. Do get the county map. Like I showed you, that the Census Bureau maps is a very handy thing to have. Again, you can kind of keep track of what the counties are in the state you're working. And call CQ, even if you're out of state. A lot of the state operators, we have a lot of people who are not real experienced contesters. They may not have really great stations, and especially say up to 20 meters in Ohio. It's kind of intimidating with a inexperienced guy with a low station to call CQ, and they tend not to do it. But if you can put a good signal in there, call CQ from California when the band is open, CQ Ohio, looking for people in Ohio from K6XYZ in California. It can be quite productive. I know for many years, N4PN down in Georgia, now Silent Key, really made great hay with, of course, he had that old Southern Georgia drawl that was kind of unique, but we just call CQ Ohio or whatever state, and were quite a few people on sideband. CW not quite as important, but it still can be useful on CW as well. That doesn't come often, but if you hear a mobile calling you, don't make them wait. Every once in a while, I will get on, call somebody, and the guy will come back. Oh, the mobile station just stand by now. WB3ABC. Hi there, Joe. How you doing? Good. And whatever. At which point, mobiles don't have all day to wait, and they're going to be gone, even if they are in a rare county you might well need. So, and I say, getting out to see the sights is part of the joy. I just love this photo. It's just a beautiful blue sky in the clouds, and one of my favorite parking spots in the Florida QSO party. It's the county line between Hendry and Collier counties. Hendry being a pretty rare county, Collier a moderately rare county, and it's a nice pull-off place beside the road. But I say, just getting out away from the hustle bustle of the city and so on, it's just delightful. Any idea where this nice placid location might be? Anybody? Oh, well, not to keep you waiting. This is in New York County, New York, a place better known as Manhattan. As I mentioned, I have a daughter who lives in northern New Jersey. One year I said, oh, let's just go out and spend half a day driving around New York and the New York QSO party, and found this location, Fort Tryon Park, on the very far upper west side of Manhattan, overlooking the Hudson River. And a nice peaceful looking spot, even if it is Manhattan. You get to see all kinds of strange sights. With me here, this is John, ACAD, who's driven with me also a number of times. John, and when I was back in Ohio for sweepstakes, would be one of my stops on my 6-hour multi-station sweepstakes tour. In the background, it's a strip mining museum or coal mining museum. And that's an old strip line bucket from in Southeast Ohio. When you know you're out in the country, when you come by and run in the buggies and complete a little load of previous buggy debris from on the other side of the road. The horse is not wearing a mobile power supply, so he was not in the contest. This was not the Wyoming QSO party, but somewhere down Southeast Ohio. I don't know how the buffaloes got there. I think they're buffaloes, but anyway. In the early days, when we had to stop to change antennas, we pull up along the side one day, and guess this herd of cows decided it was feeding time. And if you look carefully, and actually these cows are kind of galloping over toward us to see what's going on. Old number 1 of the 3 here wins the award for all time most interested observer non-human category. I don't know what this merry-go-round is doing out in the middle of nowhere, but there it was. And we once upon a time ran in Grayling, Michigan, ran into a combination of tanks, low-flying fighter planes, and missiles. There's a nearby National Guard base, which I guess was the reason for all that display. Now, a word from the sponsors. Ohio QSO Party coming 2 weeks from this weekend. It's the 4th Saturday of August. So August 28th, it's 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific time. It's a simple exchange, a similar port in your QTH, which will be California or our county. Full rolls at ohqp.org. And I hope we'll have lots of California people on chasing us around Ohio and passing lots of California QSOs. Anyway, I hope this is useful, enjoyable, and hope you all have a nice day. Back to Dean.
Thank you, Jim. Terrific job. Thanks so much for the presentation. I'm going to show one slide and then we're going to open it up for Q&A for Jim from the rest of the audience here. Let me share my screen quickly and give a bit of a California perspective. Okay. All right, hopefully everyone is seeing that. This I wanted to show from K6AQL's perspective, what he did last year. Jim talked a little bit about route maps and making sure that you're not stuck driving in canyons for hours and not making any cues. And K6AQL last year went through 22 counties. The first day he went from LA all the way up to Glen and Colusa. Usually that's his stopping point for the evening. And then the next morning, he will continue down and end in San Luis Obispo County. Going back to the idea of terrain and what you're driving through and making sure that your time driving through counties is efficient. I included this map of California over on the right, and green is flat, brown is not flat. And you can see there's a remarkable correlation between where K6AQL drives and flat terrain and not getting stuck in all these mountains. You can see some of the highways that traverse California. Red, for example, is I-5, going all the way up through all of that green. Here's 99 going up. Here's 101. So there are certainly some opportunities that I bet K6AQL uses as he goes through 22 counties. He told me that his strategy is to spend about an hour in every county, plus or minus. In some counties, he'll stop at a rest stop and operate. Because if he keeps driving, then he'll fly through some of the counties the way the highways are. But typically that's what he does. Monterey, he'll operate a little bit more from looking at his log. Colusa, he'll operate more because that's where he starts his morning on Sunday. But this is a really good example of how to make mobile work in California, given the terrain we have. With that, I want to open it up for Q&A for Jim. And I'm going to bring up Jim's presentation again, and I want to ask Jim the first question that I have.
QRV.
Okay. So Jim, you mentioned good roads and bad roads, and seeing this picture on the left made me think of a drive that I took yesterday. Actually, I was on California Highway 152 yesterday, driving from the Bay Area to the Central Valley. And it's rural terrain, just like this. But there are miles and miles and miles of power lines that traverse the highway parallel to the highway. And I'm wondering, what has been your experience on a road like this? Have you had issues with power lines like this, or is it just one power line, you drive up to it and you pass it and it's not really a problem?
I assume you're talking about power line noise. Most of the time it's kind of a one location where within half a mile either way it could be bad. There are some sections I know in Florida, up in, I think, Lake County or whatever, kind of up north of Orlando, there's some sections where I've gone through for 10 miles or so saying goddamn power line noise and so on. But like I say, your mileage may vary. There are some that are good, some that are bad. It's something kind of deal with. And like I say, there are times when I run into the noise. Do I just stop operating at all, or do you keep calling CQ and hope somebody who's really loud can break through the noise? And otherwise, people probably think I'm an alligator, which at that point in time I am. Now, speaking of alligators, I became, I guess, an official Florida QSO party person this past spring, driving through, I think it was Hendry County in South Florida. My first ever alongside the road alligator roadkill.
All right, let's open up for Q&A for Jim. Who has some other questions for Jim today?
I have a comment. W6GJB has developed a really nice jack to raise the sections through that triangle base that you've used.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that stuff on my website. There are two listings there. One talks specifically about 7QP, and that's the slide deck. The other one is Glenn's complete description about how to do this stuff, and it's a lot of really good ideas. Glenn is a mechanical engineer, aeronautical engineer, so he's quite inventive. So those two presentations, they're both slide decks, are very well worth looking at.
Yeah, okay. Like I say, my case is just the push-up mast. So actually what I will do is I will feed the wire down through the top of the mount there, so that when the mast pulls up, then the wire comes up outside of the mast. But like I say, just kind of push and twist, and finally you get done. And like I say, while starting out, you keep twisting going around there, just keep the wires twisted around. So for mechanical reasons.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I think we'd definitely be interested in linking to those presentations from cqp.org. They sound like terrific resources.
Say Dean, maybe Jim has a response.
I'm sorry, what?
Go ahead, Don.
Oh yeah, say gentlemen, hi, good afternoon. Sorry, I'm tuned in a little bit late. I apologize. A question for Jim, KAMR. Again, I tuned in just a little bit late. Jim, is there a QRP category in the Ohio contest, and any specific rules you want me to know about the QRP? Go ahead, Jim. It might be challenging, of course, from California. What do you think? Go ahead.
Yeah, we do have a QRP category for fixed stations. There's not a QRP mobile category. That'd be total masochism. But yeah, we do. And I say it's the same as any other thing. There's work as many people, as many counties as you can. And with phone and CW counting separate multipliers and separate QSOs, we do not have a digital category.
Okay, very well. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, hope to catch you then.
Yeah, for sure. Good presentation. Thank you.
All right.
How much power do you typically run?
100 watts. Sometimes especially like if I'm parked and notice the battery's running down, I'll kind of crank it back to about 60 watts just to keep the battery going a little longer. Especially in the Prius, the Prius 12-volt battery, it's one of the smallest car batteries you'll see. I think it's like a 45 amp hour or something like that. But as I say, the hybrid system will charge that battery without the engine running. So the car on it still comes out being quite usable, but it's 100 watts.
K6ST has a question, Jim.
Yes.
How do you let's talk about the human side. So how do you deal with when you're tired or fatigued? When do you stop and or sleep particularly if you're by yourself? And just how do you do all that non-operating stuff when you're piling along down the road and contesting?
Well, first of all, the contests typically run until noon to midnight, or actually Florida is where I do the drive along. The Ohio ones, I always have a driver. So it ends at 10 o'clock Saturday night, and then it starts 8 o'clock next morning. And I'm have a route where I'm able to get back to back home to spend the night there. So the sleep deprivation is not a major issue. And so like I say, when you're running 100 an hour while going down there, it keeps you awake. If that answers your question.
Yeah, what do you do for bio breaks or food or?
Well, every once in a while I stop and go to the bathroom. There are a couple rest stops along the way. And again, like I say, as a single op thing or the solo driving myself, I know that, for instance, I was mentioning the start where I go by the saltwater stuff, and I drive through Tampa. And then as soon as you get out of the Tampa area, like about 2 miles in the next county, which is Pasco County, I know there's a rest stop, which I stop there. I take a water break and so on and so forth. And I get back in the car and pull out the computer and start running Pasco County while parked.
Cool, thank you.
Have you ever run down your battery?
Actually, we did once. It was in Pennsylvania. And fortunately, I mentioned that those sealed lead acid batteries, I have one now, but actually I had a couple of them, some old UPS pools. Had been driving around. The driver had his headlights on as daytime safety, whatever. We parked. He forgot to turn them off. And when it came time to start the car up, it kind of went, whoa, 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 whoa. But fortunately, I had the battery in about 10 minutes of kind of giving a few hints from the SLAs that we had. It started up and we made the rest of the way. And after that, when it stopped, we kept the engine running.
Do you ever attract any unwanted attention from law enforcement or, just other people?
Yeah, we attract attention. And like I say, for the casual people, in other words, it's a ham radio road rally is the quick 5-word explanation. Have never run into anybody really testy about it that I can think of. Actually, the potentially biggest problem you have, or if you stop at some of these places out in the middle of nowhere. Some years back, I recall with W8DRZ, my buddy, we pulled off the side of the road down in Southeast Ohio. It's backed into someone's driveway, and we're kind of there operating whatever. And this guy who's missing about 6 teeth comes out and made clear he didn't appreciate us being there. So we promptly left, and he probably figured we were narcs or something looking for his meth mill. One thing I do, though, if I am parking alongside the road, I try to back into the parking spot. So A, I'm not looking at somebody's house while I'm parked there. And B, if I have some reason to leave, I can say, yes, sir, I'm out of here quite quickly and, sit around dilly-dallying while pulling out.
How about severe weather or lightning, any of that funny stuff you guys get? Tornadoes, hurricanes?
Never really run anything that I can really remember standing out while mobiling now.
Did you figure out how many miles you've gone over mobile so far?
Well, let's see here. In Ohio, we probably do 400 to 500 miles on a trip. I think Florida, we put it maybe a little bit more than that, although our route typically ends around Orlando, at which point it's another 120 miles back to Sarasota, where we live. Although it's at 6 o'clock in the evening, so it's not like we're staying up great late at night and so on. Actually, what I've developed a new, operating strategy or whatever, or driver recruitment technique. I'm a bike rider, and I've got a couple friends who are bike riders in Ohio last year, and we're planning to do it again this year. Do about 28 counties, basically leave my house with a bike riding buddy of mine. We have been down near the Dayton area. And then Sunday, we have our bikes. We hop out and go for about a 50 or 60 mile ride in some of the interesting bike paths out there. We would never have a reason to make the trip for otherwise. So it's so like I say, we combine 2 for 1, 2 for trips. More questions?
Hello there.
Comment, observation. Jim, you've probably seen this is Don. They have the ARRL has a nice placard. It's magnetic. It'll stick to the side of your car if you were ever in, just so people were aware you were amateur radio. They have those placards available. Sometimes you find them for free at the flea markets and stuff.
Yeah, that's as I thought. Every once in a while, I've had people ask me for out tracking moose or something like that, but I say people understand and so on and so forth. So
yeah.
What do you, when you're mobile and you go from one county or one region to another, whatever it is, how do you keep track to know, not on the log, but how do you know in your brain, oh, I got to give this exchange because I'm in a different region or county?
Okay, what I'll do, I'll just send over the air 15M or something like that. In other words, when I've changed bands. And of course, if I have a driver, I just bring up N1MM, type Control H for the new county and enter the county and keep going. Something like say with the principle, I don't want to try to run really hot, huge pileups while I'm driving. Quite often if I get to a new county, and again, when I'm doing the Florida driving by myself, I will either stop operating when I get to the new county, or I might do something like go to 15 meters where essentially nobody's hearing me anyway. And then once I get stopped and located, get the computer set up, then I go to town running the pileups.
One thing I found interesting, Jim, that you reminded us all is that mobile can be with someone else driving and you operating the whole time as a two-person tag team, or it could be you driving somewhere, stopping, setting up something quick next to your car, operating, then leaving, then driving to the next spot, then doing the same thing.
Yep, absolutely. Like I say, I'm not sure what California has as far as rules. I've never had this situation to worry about it, but like I say, in Ohio, that's what we call the rover category. And it's, like I say, it's a very interesting, worthwhile category. And like I say, especially it's helpful for the phone guys that, as I say, mobile operation with a phone station, you're pretty weak and it's frustrating, but get a full size antenna and you're become a legitimate signal, and much easier to make phone QSOs that way.
All right, folks, any other last questions for Jim? Thanks again, Jim. Terrific job.
Okay, well, glad to hope to work with lots of guys in the Ohio QSO party, and hopefully I'll be working lots of people in the California QSO party as well. And like I say, an added bonus feature, I expect to be out in the Pennsylvania QSO party, which is the weekend after the California QSO party. And as I mentioned, Pennsylvania's a 2-day contest, which I think it's more than they need to have. But last year we did the operate on Saturday and ride the bikes on Sunday, which worked out very well. And as long as we're not faced with a hurricane, the remnants passing over us on Sunday, hope to do that again this year. Okay, thanks. 73 all, and see ya.
Thanks, Jim. Terrific job.
Thanks, Jim.
All right. Dave, if I still have a few minutes, I'm going to run through a quick run through with some of the CQP changes. Do I still have a little bit of time?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Okay. All right. What I wanted to do is just go through some of the updates of what's been happening this summer. And a lot of those updates can be seen through our website on cqp.org. And why don't I just go ahead and jump into some of them right now. The first big update is a PDF that we have, which summarizes what rule changes and what awards changes we made this year. So if you were to click that, you would go through and see this presentation of 7 slides to describe what has changed since last year. And I'm not going to have enough time to go through them today, other than just to invite you to click on that document on cqp.org and look into it more. Really, there were 2 big ones that we changed. One is the club competition rules, and the other is we changed low power to 100 watts from 200 watts. From the rules perspective. But take a look at those, please, when you have a chance. Hopefully this summary sheet will make it clear what's changed since the last time. You don't have to fish through and figure out if you can find what the changes are in the rules. This is all spelled out here in this document. Similarly, awards changes, I'm not going to go through this right now, but do take a look at that and see what the awards changes were since last year. And so please do have a look at that, as well as there's a page dedicated to the new club competition rules. We're not going to have a chance to go through them all and articulate all the changes today, but this entire page has been totally rewritten. Take a look at that. And I don't think we'll spend too much time on that today because NCCC is not a eligible club for the club competition in CQP as it is the sponsor. But certainly we will be reaching out to clubs both within CA and outside CA with a PR kit and also presentations to clubs to describe what these new rules entail. What I also wanted to do is go through an update with some tabs on the left side of the page that you see on cqp.org today. Let's first start with awards. Awards, we've made it hopefully a little bit easier to see what you can win. With the plaques by what category you enter, whether you're single op assisted, either one, multi-single, multi-multi, or any class. We've divided it that way so that it's easy to see what you might want to compete for and what you might want to chase after. A few things I just want to highlight here while we're on the page. The first one is in the single op and single op assisted category. You may remember that we had first to 58 plaques and we had most CWQs and most SSBQs plaques. We have changed the latter to the top score of a station who happens to make just CWQs or SSBQs only in CQP, and that's from the realization of looking at the data from last year and previous years that about a third of our participants operate mixed mode, about a third of our participants operate CW only, and about a third of our participants operate phone only. So we're trying something new this year without creating new categories across the board and all the overhead that goes along with that by awarding some plaques to people who only operate on one mode, while also maintaining the idea of most SSB QSOs and most CW QSOs, regardless of what class you're in, by creating a top 10 table in our results. We're going to have a table listing, regardless of whether you're mixed mode or what have you, who made the most CW QSOs, who made the most sideband QSOs. Similarly for the sweeps, everyone who made a sweep, whether you're inside CA or outside CA, we're going to have a table listed from the quickest sweep, aka the first to 58, to anyone who made a sweep, and recognize that as well in our results page. That's probably the big one there. We added a number of other plaques, multi-single plaques. I also want to bring to your attention that we have two new plaques this year. One is the top score from a county line station, and one is the top score from a one-day expedition. Now, these aren't categories as such. These are just special award opportunities. And you can read more about these on the rules page on our website. But what we're doing is we're trying to give incentive to any station, regardless of any entry category, to go out and operate from a county line location as an expedition and chase after this top score plaque. Similar on the one-day expedition. With the access problems we talked about before at the beginning of this presentation, we may not, some of us may not get permission to stay overnight, camp overnight at a facility. We've come up with the idea that during the daylight hours, namely 8 chosen hours, either on Saturday or on Sunday, you can still be an expedition station, but if you operate during those hours only, you can qualify to chase this expedition plaque and not have to be in the competition with a group that is a multi or multi-single or even single op running the full bore of the whole contest the whole weekend. So hopefully that helps inspire some folks to still go on an expedition, even if they're not able to camp overnight. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say on about the awards. Let me keep pressing on and bring your attention to a couple of other things on the webpage as updates. This Activate Your County is the place where you can fill out a form and let us know where you're going to be operating from inside California. That information gets posted to our county tracker page. And that county tracker page is, you'll see this link here, which says All County 2021 Tracker Spreadsheet. Click here. When you click here, you'll be able to see all the details by county of everyone who signed up, what their call is going to be on the air, how rare that county was last year, what their goals are by mode. And so this becomes useful not only for operators inside California, but also those outside of California. If you're chasing, you know, a particular county, Butte County, for example, you'll see, there's more activity projected going to be on CW than SSB, and maybe I ought to look for KF6 and CX. Also on that page, if I go back to it here, there's a color-coded sheet that we have attempted to indicate how much activity has been signed up for so far. Here we are, we're about 7 weeks until the California QSO party. We've received, I believe, 66 signups so far. This year, we're way ahead of where we were last year. We're about 3 weeks ahead of where we were last year, getting 66 signups. So thanks to all who have signed up, although I know there are many more who haven't signed up. But this is an indication as of right now, certainly not by the time the contest comes around, of where we see activity both on CW and phone. And this sheet down here is an updated sheet with 2020 data. It's a sheet in which we try to show how rare each county has been over the last 3 years in CQP. There could be swings from year to year, and this gives a view. For example, Kings County was the rarest county last year. The year prior, 34, it was not so rare. The year prior to that, it was also not so rare. And 88 people outside of California logged Kings County last year, even with it being the rarest county. And so if you're wondering, what county should I operate it from? What county is rare? I would suggest using this as a reference, and I would suggest also taking a look at that county tracker page, that spreadsheet, as well as this color-coded indication by county and by mode, where your activity would be felt the most.
Dean, question for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, go back to that percentage over the prior year, whatever. Is that always over the prior year or all the prior years? That how rare is it? Yeah.
Okay. So notice there's 4 different columns here, in addition to the county. The first column here is the 2020 rareness rank. And so that is last year. How rare was it? And we go from 1 all the way down to 58 in this sheet. Then the next column is 2019. Then the next column is 2018. Final column is for 2020, how many people contacted that county?
So it's rare. It's rare for the year of the logs that were submitted. Is what you're saying?
This is all based off of logs submitted.
Yeah, got it. Not compared to other years. Okay.
Yeah, this is all based off of that year's log submitted. So the 2020 log submitted, the 2019 log submitted, and so on.
Okay,
it's not relative to each year.
Anything. Yeah.
All right, let me quickly go back. I know I'm running out of time here. A few things I also wanted to mention. Audio video. We have a new audio video page that you might find interesting, and we're really hoping to market to a lot of hams inside California who may not be the most experienced contesters like many of us are on this call. And these are audio clips and video clips from last year's CQP that, that we've constructed thanks to K6MR, the N6US team, and to W1SRD for capturing their audio last year, as well as W1SRD making a video of himself logging N1MM in N1MM logger, his flex radio display, and making sideband cues. Later, what we're going to do is we're going to create a YouTube page for the California QSO party for people to take a look not only at some of these clips, but also maybe expedition setup and a whole host of other things we have in mind for that page. So stay tuned, but take a look at what we have here in the audio video clips. Another thing I want to talk about is an update we've made this year on the software page. We've updated the contest loggers that people have used most to starting from the most back in 2020 based on our log submitted in 2020. So not surprisingly, N1MM is at the very top. But as you go down, you can get a sense of what people are using in the contest. N3FJP is an extremely popular logger out there that people are using in CQP and likely other contests, other QSO parties. And a number of these loggers I'm not familiar with, but which people are using in CQP. So we have links to all of those, as well as a number of utilities that you can use to manipulate your log into another form or analyze your log. Well, let's see.
AD1C has a couple of nice log converters to break out. He has one to break out a Mobile log by county, for example. So it's worth looking at his site.
Sure, if you can send me the link, Jim, we can post that on this page as well.
Right.
The last thing I wanted to close on tonight is, today rather, is something that I wanted to mention when looking at the county tracker page. We have already some calls for help and some offers for folks who would like to participate in the contest but don't have a station. And then those who have a station who need guest operators. So let me run through that a little bit and finish off the presentation here and hand it back to David. We have 2 stations, fixed stations in rare counties. Both of those stations need CW operators, one of them on site and one of them remote. So if you're interested in being a CW operator in a multi-op, please let me know, and we would be very eager to have that CW activity in both of those rare counties. The other thing is we have a couple of operators who would like to participate in CQP from an unused station for full-time single op efforts, one of them in person and one of them remote. If you know of any possibilities that there could be a station that's unused in NCCC territory and you would be open to either opening your station or allowing someone to log in remotely and operate CQP full-time, please let me know that as well. With that, I think I'm out of time, and I appreciate the time that was given today to the California QSO Party. Really looking forward to hearing all of you on October 2nd and 3rd this year. And with that, thank you very much, and back to you, David.
Hey, thanks. Great presentation, and CQP is a highlight of the year for us, so looking forward to it. Is any questions for Dean?
I had a quick question for Dean, Dave.
Go ahead.
Oh, hi, Dave. Dean, good afternoon. Dean, was there any, I'll look, number one, where can we find the link for activity tracker? Is that on the NCCC website? If I want to indicate my county that I'm going to operate from, should I send you an email? I'll probably be here in San Benito County again this year Dean, and I'll operate QRP. Should I send you an email or who should I email?
Here's a good way to do it, Don. Go to cqp.org and look on the left side of the page and click the link that says Activate Your County. Activate Your County. That will take you to a page in which you can go into and indicate in a form what your call sign's going to be, what your county's going to be, and such. And I'll see that sign up form and I'll indicate that in the spreadsheet.
Okay, that'd be great, Dean. Excellent. I was going to say, was there any particular rule changes to the QRP category? Not necessarily. Go ahead.
There was no change to QRP this last year.
Okay, sounds good. I'll look forward to it. Thanks for everything, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Don.
Dean, quick question. This is Andy.
Yes.
Are the CQP logs are not public, are they?
No.
Is there a possibility of making them public? Because I found in contests where logs are public, it's often very interesting to look and see how people manage their time and what bands they're on and things like that. Is there any reason not to do that?
Let's take it offline, Andy. We've had that discussion in the past, and it's not going to be a quick answer here for the time we have left, but we've thought about it. And one thing that certainly I'm considering that I want to continue to do with updates between now and the contest is update we have a document which indicates operating strategy, and I'd like to add some other things to that based on what trends we see in the logs. But certainly it's something we've talked about, and let's take it offline and we can continue that discussion.
Okay, I would be interested. I'd like to talk to you. And I found also I think the graph that you do have that shows activity as a function of time by band and mode is helpful too in itself.
Yeah, we're definitely going to post that as part of our operating strategy this year.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions?
Well, Dean, I'd like to know, can I put in a shameless plug?
Yes, go ahead, Chip.
Well, last year, Dean, and the year before that, Dave came and took Sierra County from being considered a rare county to in the 30s, and that is all only because of the great operators that both Dean and Dave are. I am not a top-notch operator. I welcome guest operators. The only biggest contention we have to deal up there is potential loss of power. Other than that, the shack is air conditioned. I've got, restroom facilities, etc. So I'm extending the invitation. I'd love company. You can be a CW op. You'll get operate phone as well. So I'd like to really blow out our score if we can. But both Dean and Dave really made a huge difference in our performance in CQP because of their skill set and dedication. So I know that you've got other things to do, but if there are any other folks in the club or that you know about, the welcome mat's out.
Thank you, Chip.
Yeah, and Chip has a wonderful station. It was a pleasure to operate there.
Yeah, certainly can. I can certainly highly recommend it. If you go there and be the CW operator, or even participate part-time on phone, you won't regret it. That was one of the two stations I was mentioning before. So definitely take advantage of that offer if you can.
Anybody
All right.
else?
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, I think at this point we'll turn the repeater over to general use, as they say.